Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're getting into something quite fascinating. Depersonalization and derealization.
hmm
Those feelings where you might feel detached maybe from yourself or the world around you.
Yeah, like things aren't quite real.
Exactly. And look, lots of people feel this sometimes, just briefly. But for some, it can become, well, pretty distressing and persistent.
Absolutely. And that's when seeking help is a really good idea. Our source material really emphasizes that psychotherapy is seen as the main effective path forward here.
Right. And it's specifically mentioned that medication isn't actually approved for these conditions.
That's what the source says, yeah. Which makes understanding the therapy side of things even more crucial.
Definitely. So that's our mission for this deep dive. Based
Mm.
on the info you shared with us, we want to unpack what psychotherapy for depersonalization and derealization actually looks like according to this material.
Let's do it.
So first off, what is psychotherapy according to the source, beyond just talking therapy?
Well, it's described as a scientifically grounded method. It focuses on tackling mental distress by looking at someone's personal experience, their subjective struggles, basically.
Okay.
And it uses different attitudes, different methods, different techniques to help improve the situation.
And the effectiveness. The source mentioned something about that too.
Yeah, quite strongly, actually. It suggests that for many conditions, psychotherapy is at least as effective as medication, and sometimes even more effective.
That's a really important point to hang on to. So for depersonalization and derealization specifically, the source lays out a pretty structured process. 7 steps, I think.
That's right, a clear pathway.
Let's walk through them. The first step is called anamnesis. What does that mean in this context?
Anamnesis, yeah. It's essentially the information gathering phase, really digging into the person's unique situation.
Like what specifically?
Like what kind of detachment are they feeling? What seems to trigger it? What keeps it going? And crucially, how is it impacting different parts of their life? Work, relationships.
Got it. So it's like building the foundation. Understanding the problem properly first.
Exactly. You need that detailed picture before you can plan effectively.
Which brings us neatly to step 2,
Yeah.
planning the therapy.
Right. So once you have that understanding, you sit down, therapist and client, and map things out.
Map out what?
The content, the goals, what does the person actually want to achieve? What's, realistic? And how are they going to get there? Which strategies, which methods will be used? It's collaborative.
Okay, shared roadmap.
Oh.
Then step 3 is better exploring one's own symptoms. This sounds like going deeper personally.
It really is. The source highlights that these experiences are super individual. How I experience derealization might be quite different from how you do. So this step is about exploring their specific version. How did it start for them? What does it feel like precisely? And importantly, what fears are tied up with these sensations?
That self-awareness seems key. You need to understand it intimately to work with it.
Absolutely. And that leads into step 4, symptom reduction, which is probably what many people are hoping for quite quickly.
Yeah, understandably. So how does that work?
It's about learning practical ways to lessen the symptoms' grip. Tools, strategies. The focus isn't always like immediate total elimination, but more about empowering the person
Empowering them how?
to participate in life despite the feelings, identifying what helps, finding useful coping skills, self-help techniques, focusing on where the symptoms might be holding them back from engaging.
Okay, so gaining agency even when the feelings are there. Then step 5, improving the quality of life. That sounds broader.
It is because, let's face it, chronic depersonalization can really drain the color out of life. So this step focuses directly on finding meaning again, purpose.
How do you tackle that?
By exploring what brings joy, what feels significant to the individual, and figuring out concrete, practical steps they can take towards those things. It's about rebuilding, not just reducing the negative.
That makes a lot of sense. Moving beyond just managing the bad stuff. Okay, step 7 is relapse prevention.
And this is important because, as you mentioned earlier, fleeting feelings of unreality can be, well, kind of normal human experiences sometimes.
Right.
So the goal here isn't to never feel anything odd again, but to handle challenging situations, stress, without automatically falling back into severe depersonalization or derealization as a coping mechanism.
Developing healthier coping strategies, essentially, like stress management.
Exactly, building resilience for the long haul.
And the final step, number 7, recording therapy successes. Why is that singled out?
Well, the source suggests progress isn't always a sudden leap. It can be gradual. Sometimes small wins get missed.
Ah, okay.
So this step is about consciously identifying, writing down, and talking about successes, even small ones. It reinforces the progress, keeps motivation up, and helps see the bigger picture over time.
That's a great point. Celebrating the small victories along the way. So wrapping this up, what's the main takeaway from our source about this whole process?
I think the core message is one of, well, structured hope. Psychotherapy, following these kinds of steps, offers a clear path. It suggests that for many people really struggling with this, significant improvement, maybe even the symptoms disappearing, is achievable.
That's definitely encouraging. And for you listening, maybe reflect on how active and step-by-step this approach is. It really seems to place understanding your own experience right at the center of making positive changes.
Yeah, it's not passive. It's about actively engaging, understanding the challenges, sure, but also really actively building towards a more grounded, more meaningful life.